To remain updated with the latest business news, click on the bell icon.
Well, hello and a very warm welcome to Business Today TV. I am Chetan Bhutani and today I am joined by a veteran in the banking sector, Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, former chairman SBI and chairman Bharat Pay. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Today TV, sir. First question to you. How is life after retirement, especially after SBI? What roles are you currently doing? And before we move on to the banking sector scenario and other things, how have you been doing, sir?
No, it has been, I would say, good life post retirement. I don't use the word retirement. I use the word continuation. My term at SBI ended, of course, in October 20. But after that, I've been engaged with a couple of boards like HSBC Asia Pacific, Hong Kong, L&T Infotech, Hero Motocorp, and of course Bharat Pay, which has been making a lot of news recently, plus a couple of advisory roles. I am on the board of MDI Gurgaon. So that way, like, it is a good mix of what I would say, some work and some what you call personal life.
Great, sir. So, tell us about how the banking sector has performed, because bank privatization, when you left, was at the peak, and the government has been focusing on bank privatization, and we all know that it needs a collaborated approach instead of a random action. Where do you see it now, sir?
As far as banking sector is concerned, it's a fact that we had tough time, and under the supervision of the government and the Reserve Bank of India, what I would say, massive cleanup has happened, and the outcome is for everyone to see. Today, the banks, whether in private sector or in public sector, they are in a much stronger position. And there was COVID period, which was totally unexpected, but all the actions which got initiated in, say, 2015-16 and continued for 3 years, and is still continuing. But what it did was that banks became stronger in India. They've been able to withstand the adversity created out of COVID-19 situation. So today we have a banking system which is much more resilient and is able to meet the needs of the economy. A lot of innovation is happening. Specifically about the privatization, government has made their intentions very clear, and 2 banks they want to privatize. Recently, of course, I haven't heard much about it, what is happening, but IDBI privatization, I think, is very much on the agenda.
Right.
And maybe within this financial year, means financial year ending March 23, at least I believe that IDBI would be done. Rest of the 2 banks, because there is no word from anywhere, so I can't.
Indian Overseas Bank probably.
Yeah, so that is a guess. Government has not very clearly stated which are the 2 banks which would be privatized, or what is the roadmap. We are hearing much less about that now. But IDBI, time to time.
Do you think it's starting with government banks, privatization of government banks, PSU banks would be a good move, slowly, and eventually leading on to other banks?
So, I have always maintained that one, public sector banks, under the guidance and supervision of the government, they have played a very critical role in extending the reach of banking in the country. Today, if you look at the financial inclusion, the accounts under PM Jan-Dhan, PMJDY, more than 90% of the accounts, they have been opened by public sector banks.
Right.
There are many other social banking initiatives of the government where public sector banks are playing a very critical role. But 2022 now is very different in the sense that a lot of innovation is happening in the banking sector, and maybe the system is much more confident, where the ownership, even if it is in the private hands, if it doesn't impact the overall role which the public sector banks have been playing, then I think this is a time when government has made it very clear that banking is a strategic sector. And in a strategic sector, they said they will have not more than 4 entities.
Right.
So if that path which has been outlined by the government, so if you go by that path, then there is a scope for privatization of couple of the banks.
Right. Sir, I would now move to the previous conversation when I had with you earlier, in your earlier years. So you've been a very vocal supporter of the IBC, and in fact, you've led lenders from the front to ensure that the recovery happens. Recently, we saw the shipping sector only has about 45,000 odd crores of exposure that banks usually literally lost. Do you think the shipping industry needs a boost and a clearer, transparent picture when it comes to
So
recovery?
it was not the shipping industry, this was the
A general
shipyards.
shipyards. Yes.
So the problem is that when the shipping industry went into problems, so obviously the shipbuilding also went into problems. Then a few shipyards, they were expecting that there will be orders from the defense. That also did not materialize. And somewhere things went terribly wrong for the shipyard industries. It was a booming industry at one point of time. And like any other asset, ultimately the value of the asset depends upon its capacity to generate cash flows. The value of an asset is nothing but the discounted value of its cash flow. And that is where we have seen value erosion.
So I want to ask you that recently we saw that Reliance Naval, the formerly Pipavav shipyard, got a resolution finally, and ultimately the banks had to take a haircut, but still it's a light at the end of the tunnel because Bharti Shipyard, JB Shipyard literally went into liquidation. So how do you see this move that a shipyard has finally got some resolution, with of course the promoter trying to gain a backdoor entry as what reports say? What do you have to say about that?
I have a very clear. One is that as far as my understanding of PIPWAV, which is now Reliance Naval, I'm not aware that who is trying to make entry in what manner. But it is one of the most modern shipyards. That is what, when this account was being dealt with by at the State Bank of India, and there was a lot of hope that it will get defense orders, and it has a strategic importance from the what the plan is to make India self-dependent as far as defense is concerned. So its success or failure was largely dependent, one, on the oil sector and the defense sector. So if it only gets revived or it is getting some value, it would again be that hope that it would be fulfilling that important need of the defense sector. But whether the orders would happen, not happen, banking system waited for years in the hope that orders would materialize, but they never materialized.
Right.
So what will happen now? I absolutely have no idea.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, I will not, of course, shy away from asking you your first reaction on when you see comments on BharatPe with respect to the ESOPs claim that Mr. Grover said, and of course the confidentiality aspect that you were also mentioning, and behaving more maturely, because you have been a veteran, and of course you also expect some maturity from the founders that you're on board with. So, what's your reaction to that?
My reaction to that is that that is something which is, everything is overboard. Overboard in the sense that when you negotiate a contract and ESOPs in a private limited company as a part of the compensation. So what it shows that from the board side, you believe that the person to whom you are giving ESOPs, he will bring value. And the person who is joining, he also believes that rather than taking compensation by way of
Money.
regular cash or this thing, so you believe that this company has future and you will be part of that growth story. So where is the issue? I could never understand. And just to put the things in perspective today, despite all the ESOP or whatever, so BharatPe is not paying me anything which is superior to what my other contracts are. So there is nothing extraordinary about that. So if you value talent, and talent always comes at a price, whether it is a chairman of the board or a director of the board. So we do certain missionary activities, not for profit organizations, but when you decide to join a startup in any capacity, then it is all about what the board agrees and what you get. It is choice. It is no compulsion. It is not a compulsion for me to join any organization. There is no compulsion on any organization to take my services. So it is all about with mutual agreement.
Right. The whole saga started with the alleged leaked audio clip After that, did you manage to speak with Mr. Gove one-on-one as an elder into the industry, to sit down with him and explain things, how things work in a company which has many independent people on board?
I would comment on that.
Okay, my last question. What's the future at Bharat Pay, sir?
Bharat
Despite this
Pay-
controversy, are you thinking that the company will still to grow and you will still continue to be here? Are there any change of plans in your mind?
There is no change as of now in my plans, at least. As I said, that when I joined the Bharat Pay, I joined with a certain purpose and with certain expectations to contribute by being its board member and guide it and mentor it. So there is no change in the plan. As far as revenue and business model is concerned, there is no issue around that. And let me tell you that action on all fronts is happening. One, to grow the business, the way it was in. Second is, when you grow the business, it has to be on a strong foundation. So that foundation also is now being strengthened, and there is a complete unanimity at the board level that we would put in a governance structure which meets the best of the standards of a listed entity. What is expected from a listed entity, we will do it for a private limited company, so that tomorrow when the company goes for an IPO, at least there would not be an issue about its governance structure, and both should go in hand. That is
Mr.
what
Gove,
I
you are known for establishing good corporate standards as far as the listed company.
So
also
that
went.
remains.
That remains. So, to the message to the investors of Bharat Pay, all is well.
No, that you
No,
can say
accept
all is
that,
well.
accept-
As far as
accept this
business and revenue is
Yes.
concerned, all is well, and whatever needs to be done on the corporate governance side, that will be done. And because it's a private limited company, it is a small company as of now.
Exactly.
So putting things in order is much easier rather than in a large corporation.
And what next with Mr. Rajneesh Govil?
That
Any
he will
message
answer,
to-
not me.
Well, that was Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, candid as always, speaking to us on the whole banking scenario, bank privatization, of course, the saga at Bharat Pay. Thank you so much for joining us today. Pleasure speaking to you. sir.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share, and subscribe.